Democrats. Today is Thursday, March 31st, and it's time for the Chair's Daily Life. Happy Thursday. So this morning, first thing out the gate, I went to a candidate announcement. Super excited about Gina Nelson, who has announced to run for Superintendent of Public Instruction. Very powerful speech, very powerful event. Glad to have been there. I'm just kind of glad to be back out in the world and going to events. But highlight, don't know what the tense on that one is, but what stood out to me was the number of candidates and elected officials that were at the event supporting this candidate. And in the past month, I've been to several candidate announcements, candidate speeches, fundraisers, those kind of things. And I'm always struck by the fact that there are other candidates, other Dems that are there to support. They're not trying to hog the spotlight, but they're there to support. They know what it's like to be in this together. And I'm grateful for that. But as I was looking today and I was going through my mind and thinking about who was there and why they were there, I was struck by the fact that I am so incredibly proud of the Oklahoma Democrat ecosystem, not just the party, but our entire ecosystem, and how we are putting up candidates that look like our state, that can empathize and understand our state. Gina Nelson, the candidate for Superintendent of Public Instruction, was raised in rural schools right here in Oklahoma, in Broken Bow, raised in rural schools, is currently a classroom teacher, was Teacher of the Year for 2020. And so, um, A, she's more than qualified for the job that she's applying for, but she represents Oklahoma. She represents rural. She represents the classroom. She represents teachers. And that's what we need. We need folks who represent and understand Oklahoma. And so, as I was thinking, what is today? Today is March 31st. It is the last day of the recognition of Women's History Month. And we have so many powerful women running, so many powerful women who are currently serving, and a bunch of them were there today, and it was great just to be in their midst. Then I was thinking, what else is today? Today is Trans Visibility Day, which is the day that we take out. Again, I like to point out that it's the acknowledgement and the recognition of, because we recognize our trans neighbors, our trans community every day. But today is the day that we set aside so that we say it out loud to our trans friends and family and neighbors. We see you. We see you. We value you. And you are an important part of our community, no matter what the other side how the other side tries to use you for political points, right? We see you and we value you. Regardless of the fact that our governor just signed in an emergency bill that says that trans girls can't participate in sports at the K through 12 or college level in our state. He doesn't represent all of us, which again is why he needs to go. He doesn't represent all of us. There's a bill working its way through our system, and I don't know how far it's gotten, that says, your birth certificate can't be changed and your ID can't be changed to acknowledge who you are. Thank goodness we are part of this United States. And on a federal level, they're allowing for passports. And you don't have to provide your medical records. They're allowing for passports for you to identify with an X on the passport if that is who you are. And that's what we have to do as a nation, is we have to acknowledge our diversity and embrace our diversity. And if someone is transgender, we don't need to talk them out of it. We don't need to show them why what they're saying is wrong. They know who they are. We need to acknowledge it and value them. And so, to my transgender neighbors, the community, friends, family, we see you. We see you. Okay, so but again, back to candidates. On our side of the aisle, we have candidates that are a member of the LGBTQIA2S community. We have African American candidates, Native American candidates, Hispanic candidates. We have rural candidates. We have candidates that represent all of Oklahoma. And today I was struck as I was leaving one of those events with pride that I am part of a party who understands that our strength lies in our diversity, and that the candidates that we are putting up represent all of Oklahoma, right? Represent all of Oklahoma. And I just think that's really proud. And I am not going to stay and talk very long because I don't want to step on that message, because I think it's very powerful. But I will add to it, and ask you when to help me find candidates. Right? We are 2 weeks and 1 day away from the filing deadline. 2 weeks and 1 day, right? We are 15 days away from the filing deadline, and we are still looking for candidates. So what I'd like you to do is think about who your representative is. And if you'd like to be represented by a Democrat and you're not already represented by a Democrat, look around. Who's going to your school board meetings? Who do you call when you want to know what's going on locally? And the part that I want you to understand is, even if you don't know if your community is ready to elect a woman, or if your community is ready to elect uh, a, a Native American that presents as Native American, let's have that conversation. Let's have that conversation. You don't know what your community is ready for till they run a real race. Okay, I said I wasn't going to step on it, but I do have to talk about our governor for a second. He was on Tucker Carlson last night. And I can't even believe that I just did an advertisement for him and for Tucker Carlson, but maybe you'll get the entire message. Our governor does not respect, appreciate, or value diversity. Right now, he's out there peddling the McGirt is letting criminals walk free narrative. I guess because he thinks it's going to raise him some national money. I'm not real sure what that's about, because you've lost so many times. Stop spending our money. Stop wasting our money. And encourage all the jurisdictions to work with our tribal courts, tribal police officers, because that's all it takes. It's not some big mystery. It's not some can I eyeball a tribal citizen. I mean, when I get pulled over for speeding, if I can remember, they ask me for my ID. They ask me for my ID. It tells them who I am. They don't have to guess if someone's a tribal citizen. They will have ID identifying themselves as a tribal citizen. When you go to arrest someone, or there's a crime that you're investigating, you know if somebody's a tribal citizen, because you know what? It's not a secret. All you got to do is ask. All you got to do is ask. It's not some big hard thing. And murderers are not just wandering around walking the street because we can't figure out McGirt. It's a big boogeyman. It's scary, and it's not true. It's not true. I don't even understand why this is the fight he's picking. I don't understand why he chooses to be untruthful about the facts. I can't figure out what it is, but what it smells like is self-hate. And I'm going to call it self-hate. I want to call it racism. I want to call it self-hate because he claims tribal heritage. And if he claims it, I'm not one to say that he isn't it. He claims tribal heritage, but he talks about it in ways that I don't know that other tribal members talk about it. When he said, my 6 blonde children have their Indian card. Tribal members I know don't tie their tribal heritage to a card, right? And they don't spend all their time trying to tear down the tribes, which is what our governor is just dead set on doing. If it's not this fight, it's another. Again, it makes me value the fact that we recognize and celebrate diversity. The other side, I don't know what they're doing, but what we have to do is focus on making sure that we have candidates that combat the nonsense that's coming from the other side. And as a reminder, because I reminded you yesterday, I'm going to remind you again today. If you're a Democrat, if you're not a Democrat, but you want a choice, you understand that Stitt has to go. Democrats have two gubernatorial candidates that have announced. Two gubernatorial candidates that have announced. We need you to get behind them and support them. Don't let Stitt buy the election again. We need to show up. The way to win the election is to get more votes. So support your candidate now. Support them now so they can build up the swell so that they can beat Stitt, because he has to go, guys. Alrighty, thanks for joining me. I will be back here tomorrow to do a wrap up of the week at 4:15. Have a great one.